Hey guys, EverDudgeon138 here. Just want to do a quick video. Haven't been in the studio this week. I was actually kind of preparing to do, as you can see, as I discussed in my last video, I was going to be doing more videos based on unboxing videos and talking about movies and physical media and things of that nature. And something happened this week, which I'm sure everybody knows about, which is the passing of Dave Smith. And it's very, very sad. And I just kind of wanted to do a quick video talking about kind of what Dave Smith meant to me. Because obviously his legacy and his importance in music is well documented. So I kind of wanted to discuss more of a personal connection. Now, I've never met Dave Smith. I never corresponded with him or anything like that. But this really took the wind out of the sails there. So so this is going to be a little bit of a difficult one to get through. As I talked about before, my father owned a Prophet 5, and it's interesting because later on, like, my relationship with my father, it was good, but there definitely was a lot of strained years growing up. I mean, teenagers and parents. I mean, it's pretty common. And it's interesting because synthesizers, and specifically Dave Smith, kind of helped my father and I become a lot more closer in his later years. And oh man, so sorry, when I was getting into synthesizers, it was through guys like John Carpenter and Goblin and Vangelis, and to some extent John Harrison and the Creepshow score and everything like that. And those guys all used a Prophet 5, and I remember talking to my dad about John Carpenter and the gear and everything like that, and my dad was looking at one of the liner notes of the soundtrack for Escape from New York, and he's like, "Oh, Prophet 5." He goes, "I had one of those," and I was like, "What?" And through that, he was the one that actually turned me on to Dave Smith, and he was the one that actually found that Dave Smith was still doing instruments and everything like that, because I had no knowledge of synthesizers or anything like that. And then this is when it was still the Prophet 12 and Prophet 08 that were out, so I was really like, wow, this is awesome. And my ignorance was I was just kind of like, well, I really want to get one. And it's funny because my dad was more into workstations in his later years, like the Kronos and Kurzweil and things of that nature, because he dealt with the Prophet 5 and the DX7 and all that stuff, and he kind of saw that evolution into the digital dark ages, as Dave Smith liked to call it. So, he had an M1 and everything like that. In fact, the M1 was actually the first keyboard I played on as a little kid. It was my dad's. And, but I remember talking to him about the Prophet 5, and he was looking into, some of the Dave Smith stuff, and he goes, and then, because I was set on, okay, well, I'll get the Prophet 08, because it's analog, and in my ignorance I was just like, I don't want to do the Prophet 12 because it's digital, and John Carpenter used analog, so I want to use analog. And then the announcement came that the Prophet 6 was released, and my father phoned me and he was like, "You're not going to believe this," and he showed me the video of the Prophet 6. He's like, "That's it. That's the one you get." And I remember saving up my money and buying the Prophet 6, and him driving me down to Long McQuaid in Toronto and picking up a brand new Prophet 6. And I paid it in full, and he was really impressed by that. And I remember driving back home with him, and he was like, I want to tell you something, Ev. What you have in your hands is a work of art. It's not some cheap made in China plastic synth that Roland's doing, or some toy or whatever that Korg's doing. It is a work of art made by a man who has integrity and passion and is a genius. And he was so high on Dave Smith that he kind of got back into it. He kind of was like, yeah, he's like, let's look into Moogs and Oberheims and things like that. And he got back into it. Before, he was a little bit reluctant, but bringing that Prophet 6 home and him sitting beside me, we really reconnected. And I wish he was still around, so he could see the new Prophet 5 and the OBX8 and everything like that. But I remember him sitting beside me and him showing me all the sounds and kind of showing me how to program it. And he's like, this is the sound that I used on my song, Take a Hold, and this is the Prophet 5 sound I used, and him playing me the tracks of his music with the Prophet 5. And I was like, wow. And just me playing it, and then he was telling me, how you get certain sounds with, listening to some of the John Carpenter stuff. And he was like, okay, well, this is how you do the filter a little bit, and this is the wave shape you use. And it's funny because he was never really into programming, but he kind of got back into it through Dave Smith and everything like that, and he was just so high on it. And of course the Prophet X, as I've said, if it wasn't for my father, I wouldn't have one, and I wouldn't have done all the music I have done with it. And I just, man, and I know this is going to sound really selfish and really ignorant, but losing Dave Smith feels like I lost that connection with my father, because I know that sounds, because I like I said, I've never met him or anything like that, but it was through Dave that I reconnected and had more of a stronger bond with my father in his later years than I originally had. And it was through synthesizers and like I said, specifically Dave Smith. And with him gone, it really hit me hard, really hard. I was walking with my girlfriend on because we live by the beach, so we were walking together, and I was just telling her like how bummed I was. And I know people are going to be doing synth tributes and things of that nature, and I don't know if I can do one and do it justice, because I just don't know if I could do one, because it's really, I'll have to take some time to really get back into it. But I feel terrible for the people at Sequential, and of course Tom Oberheim. It's interesting to think that Dave Smith's last synth, when he was alive, was the OBX8. It wasn't even a Sequential synth. It was him helping his friend Tom, and to kind of facilitate getting a a new synthesizer out after all these years, and that kind of shows the selflessness of the nature of his character, and just I know I'm rambling here, but I just kind of wanted to do something. But I worried about Sequential. I worried. I don't know what the future is going to hold. I know Dave Smith in one of his last interviews was talking about how he has a new synth lined up for August or September. I don't know if that's going to happen now. It might, and it might be kind of billed as like the last thing that he worked on or something. But it's tough to say. Really tough to say. Because now that Sequential is owned by Focusrite, I don't know what the trajectory is for that. I don't know if they're gonna keep on going or change things up, and maybe change things up for the worst, or it's too early to tell. I don't know, because I know Dave Smith prided himself that the synths were manufactured and made in the United States, that it was a small team, and that they didn't have a forecast. Like when Focusrite purchased or acquired Sequential, they asked him, well, what's your forecast? And Dave Smith said in an interview, he's like, well, we told him we don't really have one. We just kind of, what do we want to do next? And I don't know if Focusrite will put up with that now that, unfortunately, Dave's no longer at the helm. And I don't know if it'll still be made in the United States. They might just be like, listen, we're gonna have to switch it over to Far East or something, and that'd be a shame. Same thing could happen to Oberheim. And Tom Oberheim is going to be 86. He's a lot older than Dave. So, and I know NAMM just happened, and I saw an interview with Tom and Marcus Ryle talking about the OBX8, and you could tell that they were really, really kind of taken aback that Dave wasn't there. And I don't know. And I know some people are saying, oh man, all the Sequential stuff's going to skyrocket in price. We don't know that. I mean, when Bob Moog passed, there's things like the Grandmother now and Matriarch, which are probably a lot more economical than like things like the Voyager. So we don't know. It could be a situation where people like Carson and people at Sequential are going to try and just continue on in Dave's memory, and his pupils are going to continue on his legacy with the knowledge that he's provided them. And I hope that's the case. I hope we see more instruments, in his honor. But corporations are corporations, and that just seeing it bulldoze, kind of mom and pop shops, and I'm rambling at this point, so it's really hit me hard. I'm trying not to fall apart, but I just want to say, Dave, wherever you are, thank you so much for everything, all your contributions to music and synthesizers and humanity. Really, from what I've been told and from what I've seen, you're a wonderful human being, and whether you knew it or you didn't know it, that your legacy has touched a lot more people than I think you know. And one of those people is myself, because it was because of you that I reconnected with my father, and I'm forever grateful for that, and I'm forever thankful for that. And I love you very much, and I love everything you've done. And I hope one day, you know, I hope that your legacy and your memory lives on, and I hope Sequential lives on. And maybe one day down the road, somewhere, I'll finally get to meet you. But yeah, I just wanted to do this video real quick, and probably my next couple videos, it'll be mostly about what's behind me. As you can see, a lot of a lot of films, lots to discuss, and so I'll be doing that in my next couple videos. And I just want to say, do this message for Dave, and I'll see you guys all later. Love y'all. Take care of each other.